Hello and welcome to Money in the Movies Second Reel. I'm Peter Bielagus. On this show, we go a bit more in depth about a topic discussed in a Money in the Movies episode. Today I'm going to talk about my review of the film The Untouchables and the topic of income taxes. Taxes are fees collected by a governing body to pay for society's expenses, like homeless shelters, schools, and a standing army. Well, actually, that's a sitting army, but you get the idea. Private businesses can't charge money to operate these things, but they do need money from somewhere, so we have to pay taxes. Now, there are many types of taxes. There are sales taxes, property taxes, and even per-use taxes, which is a tax that you pay only when you use a particular service. Like when you drive on a road, sometimes you have to pay a toll. But when people complain about taxes, typically what they are complaining about are income taxes. These are taxes on money that comes into your pocket, even if that money was made illegally. So, Al Capone, if you are watching this from the afterlife, pay attention. Basically, you pay income taxes all year long. I mean, you know this. When you got your very first paycheck from your very first job, you probably opened it and 3 letters popped into your head. Your employer took out some money for taxes in a process called withholding. Basically, your employer withholds part of your paycheck and sends part of that money to the federal government and part of that money to the state that you live in, if your state has a state income tax. They also withheld something called FICA, which is money that you pay into the Social Security and Medicare systems. By the way, what does FICA stand for? It stands for the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. So with every paycheck, a little bit of money is withheld and sent to the appropriate government agency. Just after the new year, every year, your employer will send you a form called a W-2 form. This form is a summary of how much you earned and how much you already paid in taxes to the state government, the federal government, and to Medicare and Social Security. A copy of this form is sent to all the government agencies involved. So you get a copy, and they get a copy. On the state level, that government agency is probably called something like the Department of Revenue. On the federal level, the folks that we're talking about are the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS. Whenever you earn money, you will be sent some type of summary form. For example, if you have a bank account and that bank account pays interest, you will receive a form at the end of the year from your bank telling you how much you earned in interest. That form, by the way, is called a 1099 INT form. If you are self-employed, even if you work just a few days as a clown at the country fair, whoever hired you should send you a tax form. Self-employed people, by the way, get a form called a 1099. By the way, self-employed people don't really have an employer to withhold tax money, so they have to do it on their own by sending in a portion of each paycheck to the federal government. And if you receive part of your income in the form of cash tips, well, you must report those tips on your tax return. A lot of people think they can get away with that, and truth be told, years ago, you could. But now, it is very, very difficult. So please, if it comes into your pocket, report it on your tax return. By law, all of these tax forms, whether it's from your bank, from your employer, or from that part-time job that you had at the catering company, all these forms must be sent to you between the months of January and March of every year. So that's when you should look for them. On the envelope, it's going to say something like, "Important tax documentation enclosed." When these arrive in the mail, be sure to save them in a file. But why save them in a file? I mean, why not just throw them in a fire and dance naked around them as they burn? Well, the first reason is that you should never get that close to a fire, especially when you're naked. And the second reason is that you're going to need these forms to prepare a tax return. A tax return is simply a reconciliation of how much money you owe in taxes versus how much you have already paid in. You prepare it once a year, and it is due on April 15th. If, through your withholding, you've paid in more money than you owe, well, then you get a tax refund. On the other hand, if you have paid in less than what you owe, you will have a tax liability. So that's taxes. The important thing to remember is that if money is coming into your pocket, even if you obtain that money illegally, Al Capone, chances are you will have to pay taxes on it. Aldrich Ames, the American who became a spy for the Soviets and received more than $2 million for selling secrets, was convicted not only of spying, but also of income tax evasion. Martha Stewart, Willie Nelson, O.J. Simpson, Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss, actor Nicolas Cage, baseball legend Pete Rose, and Judy Garland, yes, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, all had income tax evasion problems. Who else had income tax evasion problems? Well, here's the crazy one. The IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is part of the Treasury Department. So at the height of irony, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner had failed to pay taxes on income that he received starting in 2001. I'm Peter Bielagus, and thanks for watching Money in the Movies Second Reel.